Hello, my name is Henry Jeon, and I will be doing a Harkness discussion on Chapter 1 of the novel History of the World in 10.5 Chapters by Julian Barnes. So, basically, as an introduction, everyone should know how the chapter goes, but in Chapter 1, titled Stowaway, seems to be the basis for the entire book. It sets the foundation. And the story of Noah's Ark, is told through the eyes of a woodworm, a tiny larva belonging to a type of beetle. And in this, Julian Barnes plays with the story, and you can tell that there are many differences from the biblical story and this version of the story, such as the unicorn, which is evident in the chapter. So there are many literary elements that I could point out. In terms of characters, mainly there's Noah and the woodworm. Noah is basically the chosen one by God to save the animals and humans from the great flood, and differences are present from the biblical version and the novel version. The woodworm, of course, is the narrator of the chapter and is a stowaway, which is basically the same as the title, and promises to tell the story truthfully. And this is quoted on page 16, where it says, "What point is there in not telling you the truth?" Setting. The chapter takes place on Earth, and the Great Flood occurs. The flood lasts about 5.5 years, and for this duration, it drowned all land and water. And it is evident that the people and animals aboard the ship were desperate for survival, and every loss in the journey was crucial to the future life on Earth. Because if you lose a ship, you might be losing a whole part of the animal species, and obviously that's no longer going to exist in the future. Plot and conflict. The main plot is based on the story of Noah's Ark, or arks in this case, and the events occur on the ship during the long sail over the Great Flood. Many events such as the loss of ships and loss of species occur, and the main conflict obviously is the Great Flood and its danger to life on Earth. But many conflicts during the journey occur due to Noah's lack of leadership qualities and overall organization. So I pointed out some themes and motifs. Firstly, the sea, which seems to be the motif as well as a theme. I want to point out the unpredictability and mercurial aspect of the sea. The sea is the greatest enigma on Earth, and it is a paradox that can be gentle and beautiful, or violent and ugly. The sea is the giver of life, and it's also one that takes away life, and it will not just support mankind. And although some of the sailors throughout the stories are seasoned navigators, others are not, and in this case of Noah, the time at sea was not several months as predicted in the Bible, but it was 5.5 years. And according to the woodworm, others tossed themselves into the sea either on purpose or through some unfortunate accident. It is clear that the sea was not always accommodating to those who were not native to its waters. Individuality. Individuality is, of course, another theme throughout the book, and each character, whether it's a person or beast, shows its own individual character. And in this chapter, individuality is clearly present in many examples where, for example, the woodworm. The woodworm may be seen as a stowaway or just another animal on the ship, but clearly through his narration, you can tell that he has his own personality, his own views on things. And this is established long before the reader knows the narrator is not human. And the animals are separated into two groups, the clean and the unclean, but they still maintain their individuality and their personalities. And although individuality of the characters are important, it does come to light in each case that those supposedly superior are not necessarily ranked the highest in the eyes of God or his fellow man, basically saying that just because you're ranked higher or cleaner than the other, you're going to survive longer. No, that does not guarantee that. And other elements, the point of view is first person from the woodworm, and from the author's perspective, it seems that the author is making a ridicule of the biblical story of Noah's Ark. And historical context, obviously, the story is based off of a story in the Old Testament, Noah's Ark, from Genesis 5:32 to 10:1. And connections to the rest of the novel. The novel's foundation is set on this first chapter, and this The background story and setting is based off of Noah's journey and the following life of mankind. The narrator Woodworm recurs multiple times as well, and so does the sea. Some postmodernism characteristics I could point out are mainly irony. Irony is present in the novel as the author writes in this postmodern style of writing. A good example is on page 16, where Noah is compared to a unicorn. And here the quote reads, Noah was bad-tempered, smelly, unreliable, envious, and cowardly, whereas the unicorn was strong, honest, fearless, impeccably groomed, and a mariner who never knew a moment's queasiness. So basically they're saying the unicorn is a better man than Noah. And this is very, very ironic, because the man is supposed to be considered the most superior species. But obviously the unicorn is compared to be better in this case. Some historiographic metafiction. Historiographic metafiction is basically metafiction with relevance to a historical event or literary work. And this is quite evident in the chapter because the story is based on the tale of Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark is a well-known story in the Bible, and it tells of God's attempt to flood everything on earth except for Noah, few selected people, and all species of animals in pairs. The story is told in a very idealistic way, but Julian Barnes criticized this and writes the story from his perspective. And obviously, there are more than one ships, and they all struggle to survive across the 5.5-year-long trip. And in the Bible, it's originally 40 days and 40 nights. Magical realism is where the story includes fantastic, magical, unrealistic components to give it a postmodern, intriguing feel. This is clearly in chapter 1, as the author implements the concept of animals being able to talk and just the overall existence of mythical creatures. Firstly, the woodworm. The woodworm, strangely, is the narrator of the chapter, and he's able to communicate in English, which is quite magical. And his critical thinking and communicative ability can be compared to an educated human being. Next is the existence of mythical beasts. Obviously, there's a unicorn, and from a quote, but if I describe the four-legged cock with the serpent's tail, say that it had a very nasty look in its eye and laid a misshapen leg, which it then employed a toad to hatch. Strange. So I have some questions. Firstly, the author seems to make fun of the Bible and almost criticize it through his writing of chapter 1. What do you make of this change in perspective of the story, and why do you think the author did it? Second question. What do you think is the importance of the woodworm being the narrator? What unique perspective does it give, and how does that make the storytelling different? Third question. Understanding the oddity of fantastic and magical themes, why do you think the author implemented the postmodern characteristics of magical realism in the chapter? What effects did it give? Fourth. Irony appears often in the chapter, like the unicorn being a better man than Noah. How does irony play a role in this chapter? What effect does it give, and why is it significant? How does it make a difference to the tone and overall concept of the story? And lastly, Noah's Ark is the setting of the chapter, but it also has a symbolic meaning to it. What do you believe the symbolic meaning is, and why is it significant to the chapter? In conclusion, Chapter 1 of Julian Barnes' History of the World in 10.5 chapters plays a crucial role in setting the overall tone and setting of the novel. The novel starts off with this chapter, which includes many postmodern characteristics, adding to its uniqueness and oddity. This ultimately makes the remainder of the novel an anticipated one. Through these characteristics, Julian Barnes seems to criticize mankind and ridicule many world beliefs and issues. Thank you.